Hey everybody, welcome back to Fallout Equestria. So let's get watching.
Work. From her pained expression, I could tell it was bad. Another bolt of energy struck the rubble we had taken refuge behind. The alicorns had flown out to strike down the snipers, but every time they got close, the hellhounds disappeared into the ground. All they were managing to do was get drawn further from base and increasingly separated. The goddess had begun recalling several, either suspecting or experiencing a trap. "Did you see how all the creatures reacted when the first four were killed?" Zenith asked as she hunted through her pouch of bottles and ingredients. "If the Ch30 monster experiences each alicorn's death, perhaps the death of so many at once is painful or disorienting to her." I nodded, filing that examination away until we were safely outside the goddess's range. I looked to Velvet and asked, "Will he be okay? And will he be able to fly again?" Velvet took longer to answer than I would have preferred. "I can repair the structural damage to his wing with my mending spell, but I can't heal the wound. He'll need at least one extra strength restoration potion to begin the healing properly, more if he wants to fly again any time this week. And right now, we don't even possess a healing potion." She looked at me sadly. "If you'll remember, I used up all of our medical supplies patching you lot up inside Stable 2. I felt a pang of guilt. "Quite a spell you got there," Calamity praised, resolutely ignoring his doctor's orders. "You saved my life." Only the slightest smile touched Velvet.
Is Calamity going to become a cripple? It sounds like Calamity's going to become a cripple. I don't know how I feel about that. Oh man, that'd be sad.
Remedy's frowning expression. "Yes, I had hoped to barter for more medical supplies from Dr. Helpinghoof, but with Tenpony Tower surrounded by Red Eye's forces, he wasn't willing to part with anything more than a few healing bandages. So I spent part of my time there learning a couple new spells. A disintegration ward seemed prudent."
Well shit,
Zenith
you should
pulled out
always
a
learn
vial
that
and offered
spell.
it to Velvet. She took it and wrapped it in a telekinetic sheath, keeping it floating nearby. She scowled as she added,
Fucking dropping shit.
"Unfortunately, this wing needs more than my spells and some bandages to heal. I'm going to need to cut the warped flesh away before I can start rebuilding and mending the bones of your wing." Velvet Remedy insisted remorsefully, addressing Calamity. "This is magical damage. If I don't remove all the affected flesh, your wing will never heal properly. You're going to bleed a lot when I do it, but Zenith has given me something that should reduce the blood loss." She frowned. "This would be excruciating, so I'm going to have to use my anesthetic spell. You're not going to be able to move for the better part of an hour." A beam of pink light struck above the doorway into Maripony. A cinder block's worth of the wall glowed and dissolved. Zenith turned to me. "You made the wagon fly before. Can you fly us all the way from here?" I shook my head. I had been asking myself the same thing. "I can, but floating myself is incredibly draining. I don't think I'd be able to get us very far. And even if I could, I can't move us very fast. All those Hellhound snipers would need to do is get one good shot to blow us up." "Then we are trapped here until we find medical supplies for the winged one." "Dang, girl, have you just not learned our names yet? I'm Calamity." "My apologies.
It is a
Calamity.
little rude.
I am not used to thinking in names, or to being—" The ex-slave Zebra was clearly having difficulty putting her feeling into words. "On a level of familiarity when names are appropriate for me to utter." I could have sworn I'd heard her refer to at least one of us by name before, but now that I thought about it, I couldn't place an instance. The closest I had come was her questioning how Calamity got his name. Only the largest figures in her life had been given names. Red Eye and Stern, who ruled those who had enslaved her, or figures of legend like Doom Bunny and Nightmare Moon. She'd kept her silence for how many years? I knew how impossible it had seemed to form friendships with my peers in Stable 2, having been the awkward blank flank with the alcoholic mother. Being a zebra in Philadelphia's slave pits would have been even worse. I wondered if she ever bothered to learn the names of most of her tormentors. Is this the way she'd come to identify ponies in her mind? "Do you believe there may be medical supplies inside here?" Zenith asked, looking towards Maripony. I checked my Pitbuck's auto-mapping feature as well as the scan of the wall map.
I doubt the
To my
alicorns
chagrin,
use it.
Maripony's medical clinic was in the section that had collapsed into the crater. Anything that had been there would be crushed, scattered, and probably tainted. There were bathrooms that might have medical boxes, But would they be stocked with the sort of medical supplies Calamity needed? I felt it was doubtful, and I wasn't eager to try. The horror of what lurked in there, or what she had done, curdled my blood. I knew the goddess needed us, but what if she changed her mind? I didn't want us to suffer the same fate as Twilight Sparkle. "There's a hospital a few miles from here," Calamity announced, surprising us all. "Part of the gem mining town that served this place. When they shut down the mines, the town was abandoned, but they opened parts of it back up to house the ponies who worked at Maripony and their families." I didn't ask how he knew any of this. Calamity had been surviving in the Equestrian wasteland for years before we had met. Who knew what rumors and scraps of information he had learned? I was content to just be thankful for this change in our luck. Another shot struck the wall.
Man, I woke up way too
causing
fucking
it to
early.
glow and melt. I scooted my tail to another bit of cover. We weren't going anywhere until they stopped taking so many pot shots in our direction. "And there should probably be plenty of rooftops to hide out on while I heal," Calamity assured us. "Ain't perfect, but probably the safest place from the hellhounds, if we can get there." We all knew we were talking about several miles' travel over hellhound-infested, irradiated, and taint-soaked landscape. "Just point the way, Calamity," I said, sounding more sure than I felt. "I have a plan." "You always do," Calamity grinned. "Just get us to Old Olney, and we'll be fine." The
Look,
hellhound
seriously,
seemed to
I
lose
got up
interest
way
after
too
about an
early.
hour.
What the fuck am I doing?
It made me wonder if there was a larger purpose behind the attack, or if it had just been sport. I stood on the railing, ringing.
Obviously, it's to thin the numbers of the fucking horde that is being built. It's like, holy shit. That's crazy. Like, fucking army of... Oh my god, why am I so tired? I got plenty of sleep. This is why I'm a night owl. This is why I'm a night owl. This is why I like staying up late, because the daytime, fuck the day, fuck the sun, fuck the day. I just want to sleep in. God, gotta go to work later. Kind of pissed off.
Maripony's short water tower, my binoculars floating in front of my face. From here, I could just make out the shapes of Old Olney in the distance, resting peacefully. An elevated highway passed nearby, going nowhere. The highway had collapsed less than half a mile beyond the off-ramp to the town, leaving a line of rubble and crushed wagons that time and the valley had mostly succeeded in erasing. Turning my gaze towards the horizon, I glimpsed a shadow that may have been Ponyville. Beyond that, the sky turned hazy and thick from the smoke of the ever-free fires. Walking around the rim, I realized I could spot 3 of those needle-like towers rising in the cloudy heavens above. I was fairly sure that one of them was the same one I had spotted from the outskirts of Cloudsdale, but I hadn't seen the others before. Coming full circle, I looked back again at Old Olney, then traced the path we would travel by to get there. A set of train tracks that stretched from Old Olney to Maripony, crossing rocky flatland with only minor undulations, save for a gulch filled with hints of scraggly vegetation and sick, stagnant water. I couldn't make out any details, but the plants beneath the bridge moved as if there was much stronger wind blowing down the gulch rather than the faint breeze that stirred my mane. My view turned black as an alicorn flew across my narrow scope of vision, obscuring the landscape. I put away the binoculars, hurrying back down. More alicorns were beginning to return. The ones already here had returned to their silent lurking, seeming to pay us no attention. I was expecting either the goddess or her alicorns to attempt another escort, but it was almost as if they had forgotten we were here. Yet that was impossible. They kept looking right at us. Maybe the goddess was gauging what we would do next, or maybe she was recovering. She had lost quite a few of her children over the space of an hour. I wasn't the only one who found this behavior bizarre. "Howdy," Calamity said, trotting shakily up to one of the dark purple alicorns and waving a hoof in her face. "Remember us? The ponies y'all want to find your stuff for you? Got a hurt wing here. If one of y'all would care to hitch yourself up, we can all be out of your mane that much faster." He turned to me, wobbling a little from the last fading effects of the anesthetic spell.
What? Wow.
This is weird, right?
He actually
Maybe
did
the
that.
goddess is taking a great and powerful nap, Zenith suggested. Calamity snorted a laugh that ended in a wince. "Hey, Zenith," Calamity suddenly announced. "I never said it, but I wanted to tell y'all, I'm glad you're free and all." Merciful Celestia, Calamity. Awkward much? Zenith looked at him quietly, then simply said, Thank you. Calamity chewed on that, then tried again. So, those potions you brew, any of 'em good for strengthening armor or helping with equipment maintenance?
Is he still under the mental effects of an anesthetic spell? Because sometimes you could get kind of loopy with that stuff. Like, remember one time I had to get my tonsils moved? They put me on some stuff so I wouldn't feel it, and god damn, I was fucking out of it. Like, I was like, oh, the glue? Like, I was fucking out of it. Like, is he still going under the effects? Like, the physical effects seem to have worn off, but, like, is he still, like, kind of mentally fucked up? That's the only excuse I have for his awkwardness to Zenith. He's usually more sociable than this.
No, Zenith answered. Seeming to understand his intentions, she offered politely, I do know many poisonous brews should you be looking to make your bullets more lethal. I felt for him. He was trying to connect with the new member of our group. He had been the most welcoming of her, trusting my judgment. But since then, they hadn't really bonded in quite the way Zenith and Velvet Remedy had, or even established the sort of relationship. Would rivalry be the best word? Grudging respect? That Zenith and Steelhooves shared. They were friendly acquaintances, and I suspected Calamity was trying to find a better way to turn that into one true friendship. Calamity trotted around the alicorn. She turned lethargically, keeping him in her sight. I'm tempted to start shooting them. Take out as many as we can. Velvet shot him a look of alarm, and he backed down with a grin. I didn't say I was gonna. I just said it was tempting. Zenith shook her head. We should make the most of this respite to implement the little one's plan without interference. I floated Calamity's Enclave armor out of the Sky Bandit, as well as Spitfire's Thunder and our other vital equipment. I didn't want anyone trotting up to it when the area around the passenger wagon could still be mined. As I placed our equipment in the center of a large hunk...
Okay, so the passenger wagon didn't get blown up. It's just mined around it. Though, if they had the time to mine it, I'm also pretty sure they had time to dig up under it and plant some fucking bombs underneath it. So, I wouldn't trust that fucking thing. I wouldn't trust it.
Hunk of capsized wall. Velvet called us to gather close. Pilot landed on her back, puffing herself up and looking important. As a precaution, Velvet was going to cast another ward against disintegration upon us. I had been watching Calamity when his orb burst, but I hadn't realized the ones over the rest of us had disappeared simultaneously. I can cast the spell over multiple friends, Velvet explained as she recast the spell. But it collapses after any of you are hit. So please be dears and try not to get shot. She turned towards me. Especially you. I really hate this idea. You're
Actually, I have a question where you got the spell design from. Were you playing Eternal Darkness? Because the orb flying around and it breaks whenever you get hit. This sounds like the shield spell from Eternal Darkness. Specifically, the Mantarok shield spell. Have you been playing that? Oh, God, those were great games. There was only one. But, God, that was a good game. Fuck you, Silicon Knights, for never making any more.
Too vulnerable. Why is it that you're always the one put in the most danger, little Pip?
Main character.
But she knew the answer. We'd been over this before. All my friends gathered on the slab of concrete as I wrapped them and it in a field of levitation. Velvet turned to help Calamity into the Enclave armor, being extremely careful with his partially mended wing. She was wearing the zebra armor again, insisting we minimize the risks as much as possible. Particularly since little Pip seems insistent on taking more than her fair share. I floated the chunk of Mariponi's wall upward, not stopping until it was at least 4 stories above me. I was counting on the concrete to shield them from the Hellhound's magical energy weapons. I understood Velvet Remedy's concern, but this time it couldn't be helped. My telekinetic magic had grown powerful enough that I could float this large section of the wall and all of them on it easily, but adding myself to the mix would create such a strain that I would be lucky to make it halfway without suffering burnout. I agreed to light myself enough to prevent my hoofsteps from triggering mines or announcing my presence to any hellhounds who might be lurking just beneath the surface, but that was all. In the end, Velvet Remedy had to accept it. It had to be me. I started forward, moving around the ruins of Maripony. The slab of wall with my friends on it floated along high above me. While I would not say as much, I was grateful to be able to take the risk in their place. Was this something corrupted kindness would do? As soon as I had the thought, I pushed it out of my mind. I couldn't afford self-doubts right now. As I reached the cracked edge of the Maripony base, I hesitated. My pip-buck was click-clicking, warning me of the radiation. But there was no sound, no special display on my EFS designed to warn me of taint. Old Olney suddenly felt a very long way away. Splotches of red on my EFS compass alerted me to more threats. I floated the zebra rifle close and slipped into sats even as I trotted. I was pacing myself. Advice from the book, The Egghead's Guide to Running, that I perused in Twilight Sparkle's Athenium during one of the hours where Homage was playing DJ Pony and giving me a chance to catch my breath. I had several miles to go, and I wanted to make the distance as quickly as possible, which surprisingly meant not pushing myself as fast as I could. A spiny dart hit my side, bouncing harmlessly off my armored utility barding. My targeting spell latched onto the first bloat sprite, then the second. I fired off a 3-round burst at each, and the taint-swollen bugs erupted in flame as they fell to the ground.
Man, that sounds like a waste of 4 bullets. You only need
my
one
pace just a
for
little
each.
to make up for the seconds lost while shooting. The wall holding my friends floating high above me, keeping place. We were nearing the gulch. My skin was beginning to itch in strange places. I fretted, wondering if it was nerves or an allergic reaction. Or worse, the first symptoms of taint. My EFS compass was filled with red. Dozens of little lights appeared. Then more. The gulch was swarming with hostile life. I trotted onto the tracks and prepared to break into a gallop, hoping that the rather rickety wooden bridge would offer me protection. Something bobbed up over the edge of the gulch. I shuddered, staring at the taint-mutated thing. It looked like a plant, its huge head covered in gas sacs that allowed it to float, the stalk drooping down and dragging behind it. A sphincter in the center of its head tightened and then spit foul goop at me. The spore-laden effluent splattered on the ground near my hooves, sending up a choking stink. The equestrian wasteland never seemed to run out of new vileness. Several nearly identical floating spitter plants were moving up and out the gorge towards me. I slipped into sats again, locking targets onto the closest 2, sending 2 3-round bursts into the sphincter heads of each monster as a third sprayed its filth at me. I felt the crud splash against my armor and coat, burning where it touched and causing me to drop my targeting spell as I gagged on the stench. The 2 floaters I had hit ignited spectacularly, the gas pods that gave them mobility rupturing in flame like the miniature versions of Pinkie Pie balloons. 3 more of the floating spitter plants rushed up from the gulch, one hitting the burning form of the first one and igniting explosively itself. The second spit its spore sewage at me while a third charged towards me, as if intending to latch on and devour. I cantered to the side, dodging the spit, and bucked sats back up, targeting the charging one first, and then the one who had successfully hit me. Bullets burst from the silenced muzzle of the zebra rifle. The 2 targeted plants became flailing columns of fire, but the floaters kept coming. I dropped the targeting spell, and brought it back up immediately, targeting 2 more. One of the burning plants spit at me, its spore sewage now on fire. Mercifully, the burning crud splashed across the tracks behind me, missing by a yard.
Okay, I was about to say, that'd be... Oh, that
really
wouldn't be good.
To hurt where I had been hit. I dropped out of sats again and shook, flinging the goop away from me. Then lifted the rifle and brought up the targeting spell, firing again at the advancing, half-burning herd of plants. One of the burning floater plants tumbled back into the gulch. I could hear more gas bladders catching fire and bursting as a rapid chain reaction quickly set several hundred yards of the gulch ablaze.
Fucking awesome.
I sprinted, galloping across the wooden bridge as flames from the gulch began to lick at it. Fierce heat and a choking reek buffeted me as I forced myself across, my eyes stinging. Several of the plants in the conflagration below spit burning spore sewage at me. Most hit the bridge, setting it properly ablaze. Burning effluent...
I can't tell if by lighting them all on fire she made it worse. Or better, I don't know. It's...
struck my left flank, my hind leg and saddlebags catching on fire.
Yeah, she made it
I bit
worse.
Down, knowing that a scream could bring hellhounds. I pushed, running as hard as I could, my leg in searing pain. I was pouring concentration into levitating the wall now, the physical agony threatening to break my spell. The fire was spreading up my side, and it hurt to breathe. Flames licked at my hooves, burning them. I did scream. I was almost across the burning bridge, the gulch below a writhing river of fire, when the hellhound tore.
Okay, does Little Pip ever get any mutations? Because right now, I think it'd be kind of metal if she got mutated into a nightmare. In case you don't know, nightmares are a mythical breed of horse that they're fucking badass. Just look them up. They're cool. It'll be cool if she gets mutated into one of those things.
Tore out of the ground, alerted by my scream. But he was far enough ahead of me that Calamity could target him from the platform above. 4 blasts of magical energy knifed down from above, melting the hellhound into a colored sludge. I began to lower the wall, choking on the smoke and the stench of my own burning coat, knowing I wouldn't be able to hold it much longer. It was 3 yards above the ground when the pain overwhelmed me and I dropped it. I made it to the end of the bridge in a stumbled gallop and collapsed, rolling on the ground, squirming as I put out the fire on my left flank, screaming. "Just get to Old Olney and everything will be fine."
Fuck you!
Her exotic voice taking on a mocking tone as she peered at the town below through my binoculars. We had made it to the top of the overpass and were looking down Old Olney from above. From here, we could see dozens of hellhounds lurking about the town. A couple were even on rooftops. "God dang it, why do you ponies ever listen to me?" Calamity asked. "I ain't Little Pip. Y'all know all my plans ain't worth shit." I flopped over, telekinetically floating the binoculars to my eyes. I still couldn't feel anything. Velvet Remedy's anesthetic spell doing its work. But that didn't prevent me from using my levitation spell. In fact, it almost made it easier. I had spent the second half making myself light enough for Pylite to carry while I floated the others in the wall behind us. The older unicorn had wasted no time in wrapping me with the rest of our medical bandages as she scolded me on taking yet another gruesome attack for the team. But with the pain gone, and out of the choking smoke, I felt assured I had done the right thing. There was something wrong with me. I could feel it where the spit hit me. Something crawling beneath my skin that even Velvet's spell couldn't cover.
Mutation?
I floated my own forehoof so I could check my Pitbuck's medical diagnosis spell. It confirmed that I was suffering from something, but it couldn't determine what something was. It wasn't poison, and I checked clean for spore infestation. No,
Parasite?
the spore sewage of those
Ew.
floating plants had been laced with taint. I had never believed I could make the distance without exposure to taint. I had never been that lucky. Rather, it would be a matter of how much exposure, and how quickly taint took its toll. I knew that the society keeping Tenpony's Tower's secrets possessed a spell that could purge taint itself, although I didn't know if it could reverse the damage caused by it. That would be my hope. The ruins of Old Olney included several nearly intact buildings, one of which was the hospital. Sitting on the roof was a contraption I had never seen before, colored like a pink and yellow candy cane with periwinkle propeller blades.
I know it
fixed
might
to the
seem
top.
kind of fucked up that I want Little Pip to get mutation, but there are actually several mutations of Fallout that are actually really awesome. And I mean, I am fond of Blackjack's glowing eyes, even though I don't like Project Horizons. I do like Blackjack, and I do like the glowing eyes. And who knows? Maybe Little Pip will get that mutation that allows you to regenerate your limbs if you have a certain radiation level. That'd be pretty cool. And it would fit, because it was her limb that got hit and it was damaged. But now, like, you got the healing bandages, which are trying to fix it, and you got the taint, and it's, like, interacting with each other. Oh, that would be cool. That would be fucking cool.
"What's that?" I asked, pointing it out. "I believe that's an Earth Pony Skywagon," Calamity said. "Trust it to an Earth Pony to find a way to fly." I could use that. No more running on the ground as I levitated others in safety. "Do you think it still works?" I asked hopefully. "Nope," Calamity said, deflating my daydream of floating everyone behind me while I was keeping safely off the ground in the Earth Pony contraption. But then he added, "But I bet I can fix her up so she will." Hope resurrected. Perfect, 'cause that's our plan B. I looked over the rest of the town. noting a strange glowing antenna array amongst multiple crates and barricades on a roof across the street from the hospital, and a scattering of old military vehicles on the road. There was a capsized wagon with metal boxes scattered around it, and a heavy tank.
Fuck's sake.
Instead of a normal earth tone or camouflage coloration, the tank had been painted in bright multicolored stripes. The paint job was old and faded, but still added a surprising splash of color to the town. I laughed. That tank looks like rainbow. I could think of no logical reason for it to be colored that way. Really? Is that what they look like? Zenith asked. At my question, she explained, I have never seen a rainbow. At first, I found the zebra's assertion impossible, then tragically sad, and finally curious. I looked up at the clouds that sealed off the sky. I'd seen it rain here. I'd seen it rain a lot, in fact. But I had never seen a rainbow outside, except in posters and illustrations, that is. In fact, the only real rainbows I'd ever seen were in Stable 2, when the apple orchard sprayers were on. The Overmare's artificial sunlight would stream through the mist, creating shimmering arcs of beautiful color. I used to beg my mother to let me play in them when I was young.
And this is where Canon Equestria ruins it by having rainbows be fucking manufactured. Oh, like that fucking Love Poison episode where they just suck out the fucking rainbow juice. And then like later on you find like, yeah, we make rainbows here. There's the rainbow juice. Like, oh man.
Younger. She even let me once. Yep, Calamity said in answer to my thoughts. To get a real rainbow, you need either magic or direct sunlight. Ain't been a proper rainbow in the Equestrian wastelands probably ever. He thought a moment, then added, except maybe in the Everfree Forest, since the cloud cover gets mighty fragmented there. I exchanged looks with Velvet Remedy as the knife slipped into my heart. I had never thought to miss them until I realized we were living in a world without rainbows. I'm gonna shoot him, Calamity announced before picking up Spitfire's thunder in his teeth and aiming it over the concrete railing of the overpass, taking aim for one of the hellhounds in the town below. No, hissed Zenith, pushing Spitfire's thunder with her hoof.
Yeah, what the fuck you thinking?
Then you will let them know where we are.
Yeah, don't...
Wait.
Stop.
Velvet Remedy started to suggest, but my focus was on Calamity and Zenith, and their focus was on each other. Calamity started to say something through the gun bit, then put the weapon down to properly argue. Yep, I think I can pick a couple off before they realize where the shots are coming from. Then more as they come out of those buildings to investigate. Let them come running towards us. We got plenty of space between here and there to snipe them off in. I was already pulling out my own sniper rifle, levitating my anesthetized body into an optimal sniping position. Little Pip, wait, Velvet said, but her words were cut off by our zebra companion. Are you fools? Zenith trotted in place.
Yeah, they are.
This is not how you behave in enemy territory. Our enemy outnumbers us, and these are not stupid raiders, but clever opponents. You do not engage them wantonly. Calamity cocked his head. And what would you have us do? Hide and sneak? Yes. Zenith nodded firmly. Be alert, move fast, keep downwind into the shadows. Avoid them whenever possible. Kill...
There's or Hellhounds right behind them, isn't there? They're all focused on each other, and Velvet Remedy's going, wait. It makes me feel like there's, like, 10 of them right behind them. Or even better, they're all arguing with each other and looking out of town, and Velvet's just standing there looking like this, and the camera pans. And there's a little hole in the ground, and the Hellhound's head is poking up. And they're all arguing with each other about killing them, and Velvet's just standing there staring at the head poking out of the whole ground. Like, guys, wait. That would be fucking awesome. And we're all out of time, so I don't know. Maybe there is, like, 10 Hellhounds right behind them. Maybe Velvet just says, maybe we should try talking to him for once. Or maybe there really is just a fucking head poking out of a hole in the ground. Just staring at them, freaking Velvet out. That would be... I hope it's the last one. That would be funny. See you all...